Hello, this video is about time travel. Ooh. But first, I want to plug my book. Here it is right here. And everything I talk about is in my book here. And you can go to Amazon, you can pick up a copy, or you can read the first chapter for free without buying anything. And you can also look through the table of contents for free and see all the things in the book. So, and in the book, I tell about my own personal theory of what time is right here. The biological theory of time. So, enough about the book. Put that over there. Let's see here. Got a little paper here to tell me what to say. Oh yeah. The first time I ever remember about thinking anything about time travel was in 1960 when my mom and I and my dad, he's included, we all went to the Cool Avenue Drive-In Theater in just south of downtown Orlando, a couple miles. And the theater was spelled Kuhl. And everybody called it cool. And I liked saying cool because, well, it was cool. So we went to the Cool Avenue Drive-In and we saw this movie called The Time Machine. And I was floored by it. My parents liked it too, but I really liked it. And it was the first time I ever thought about being able to do that. And it was a beautiful movie. And I still have it on DVD, and you might too. But I'm sure you can go on YouTube and look at it. But the thing is time travel possible? Today, around 2026, we're inundated with movies, TV episodes about time travel. I mean, there must be several hundred time travel stories out there on TV. So, is time travel possible? Well, the answer I've come up with in my book is yes and no. How's that for a straight answer? It sounds like I'm covering my bases. But it's true. Both answers are true. Only under different circumstances. The no answer is true when it comes to building a time machine. Maybe you take an old car and trick it up so it'll travel through time. That's no. That'll never happen. Now, the other answer, yes, is also true under different circumstances. Because in my book, I say that time is a 100% physical, biological mechanism that only exists inside our skulls. There is no time on the moon or in space or in the sun or anywhere, not even on the earth, unless it resides inside a living being. But mostly I'm talking about humans. Well, because they're the only ones with enough money to buy my book. But I like animals too, so we'll include them. They have time in their heads like elephants. Elephants never forget. They have a great memory and they remember things that happened to them. And they can look into the future. They know there's a water hole about 20 miles away. So they know they have to get going to get there before they die of thirst. But we'll just stick to humans for a while. And let's see here. Oh, I want to talk about a guy named Clive Waring. That's his name. He's an Englishman. He wound up getting the worst case of amnesia ever known. And this guy can't remember the past beyond about 12 or 15 seconds. It's like his mental memory recorder hiccups every 12 to 15 seconds and starts over. So I saw him on PBS on a series. I say in the book, wherever I put it, that he has a worse case of amnesia, but I first saw him on PBS. They had a series about the mind, and he was one of the people in the series, and they showed him where he lives. He lives in a mental hospital. Not because he's crazy, but he can't remember what he did 10 minutes ago. So, they don't want him to wander off and fall in a ditch somewhere. So he lives in this mental hospital, and they videotaped his wife visiting him. And when he first saw his wife, he says, "Oh, Deborah, where have you been? I haven't seen you in ages." And he hugs her and all this stuff, like somebody you haven't seen in a long time. And then about 10, 12, 15 seconds later, it's like he'd never seen her before. He says, Deborah, where have you been? Come here, let me hug you. And I've missed you so much. And he does this over and over and over the whole time she's there. And he's basically stuck in the present. He can't remember the past. And what a horrible fate. We're all a lot luckier than we think. And I'm sure it works on his wife It drains her after every visit. But this guy cannot travel into the past like we can. If you could only remember things that happened to you 10 or 15 seconds ago, you'd have no life. You'd just be, it would be like a Twilight Zone episode your entire life. But the rest of us who are luckier than that have a full memory of when we were kids and what happened last week and what happened this morning. And we can navigate through life where this poor guy can't. So anyway, he's traveling through time for 12, 15 seconds. But anyway, let's see here. Now let's talk about us traveling to the past. There are things that don't change in the world. And a good example is a building in Rome called the Pantheon. And pan means all, and theon means religions. They built this temple to all religions, I guess, to, make everybody feel included. But they built this place out of concrete, and it's about 2,000 years old now. And it's just a big dome like this. Well, here, let me hold my hands back. It's a big dome on the top, and then right in the middle, there's a giant round hole, a lot rounder than my hands are making it. But it's up in the top of this dome, and it's a huge building. And the inside has nice tile floors, and it's all has some statues around the inside of it. And it really hadn't changed at all in 2,000 years. Now this dome lets in light during the daytime and wind and probably some rain too. They probably have some guys with mops. When it rains hard, you can go clean the floor, I guess. But you can go on YouTube, I'm sure, and look at pictures of this amazing building. And it hasn't been rebuilt. It's just been kept up for 2,000 years. So basically, you're traveling 2,000 years into the past when you go in this building. And let's see. Oh, the next thing I want to talk about. I don't talk about this in the book. This specific name I give it. I call it mechanical memory. Now, when you live your life, your memory builds up in your skull, inside your memory mechanism. And say you live 100 years. And then you die. And your body, your brain, rots away to nothing. Now, all that memory's gone. Now, if somehow you could pull that memory out of there, just pull it out and set it on a shelf somewhere so that younger people could look at the same memories you had, then they could travel back in time, not only from their own memories, but somebody else's memories, your memories. So humans have been able to do this. And I think the first way was just speech, because humans can transmit a lot more information through speech than most animals can. You know, they can grunt and howl and all that stuff, but humans, through speech alone, can transfer the past to the younger generation. You know, like the cave people sitting around a fire eating buffalo steaks at night, watching the fire. And the old geezer starts telling them how they did things when he was young. He's actually transferring his memory to other people, other minds. Now, this is not very permanent because, you know, a few extra tellings and it gets all garbled. But one of the first ways they could transfer memories was artwork. And one of the best examples I can think of is these caves in Lascaux, France. I think it was 1940. This kid and his dog stumbled into this cave. They discovered it. His dog ran in the cave and he ran in to get him. And he discovered all these cave paintings up on the walls and ceiling. And he was flabbergasted. And he ran and he told his parents and everybody he knew. And they went there and looked. And the world was amazed. And the scientists, you know, they tested things to find out how it got there, and they determined it was about anywhere from 15 to 20,000 years old, just very old. And the animals portrayed on the walls were all Ice Age animals. They had horses and deer, and this is when they ate horses instead of riding them. They had deer, they had lions, you know, natural, what am I trying to say? Native lions, I guess. And then they had elephants, woolly mammoths, and all this stuff. And whoever did this, he made the animals life size up on the walls. And so basically, when you go in there, you're transferring his memory, his mechanical memory, to your memory. So basically, you're traveling like 20, 30,000 years into the past, time traveling. So that is a form of time travel. But It's amazing to think all that long ago, some guy's up there painting these, and the beautiful artwork too. And let's see, what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, there's one drawing that struck me as unusual. It was a picture of a lion's head from the side, more or less like this. And the lion was, of course, the pictures are stationary, but the lion's head was stationary like this. And then the artist drew another lion's head right over it, going like this. And if you've ever watched many pictures of lions, when they growl, they, of course, take a breath, and they hold their head like this. And then when they growl, they go, ooh, like that. So basically, this caveman drew a motion picture of this lion roaring. It only had 2 frames, but you can tell that's what it was. And just to think that that was the first movie, it's really mind-blowing to think of all that time. So talking about mechanical memories, you start, I guess, with just telling stories about your youth. It's not your memory, but it's a physical, it's a physical voice coming from another person through words into your memory. That was more or less the first mechanical memory. But then this cave painting and art. Art has progressed since 20,000 years ago. But when writing came along, they could express the finest detail about memories, feelings, aspirations, things you never got to do but wanted to do, and things you did do. And then the next thing after writing was they had ways of making writing permanent, like writing on a piece of paper. And they used to have these little clay tablets about this big. And they'd take a stick and they would put little figures in the clay. And then the clay they'd bake it, I guess, until it was permanent. And that worked. That worked okay. But then printing came along. You could write something and copy it thousands of times. And then it made learning to read worthwhile. And then about, I guess 1820 or something, they came up with photography. And then at the end of the 1800s, they came up with motion pictures. And then into the 1920s and 30s and 40s, they came up with color motion pictures and sound to go with it. And of course, today with electronic cameras and video, it's just amazing. And the last revolution, I guess you'd call it, I lived through. And that was the change from chemical film to electronic film. So when I was in my 20s, I had a camera. You'd have to go down and buy a roll of film with about 26 exposures. And you had to be careful you didn't use it all up on one thing. And then you'd have to go down and pay again just to have it developed. And you had to wait for 2 weeks, and it was kind of annoying. And then they came out with digital cameras. And then they put the digital cameras onto cell phones, so you can take hundreds of pictures. And it's just, let's see. Yeah, I guess I talked about everything there. Well, since we're talking about mechanical memories, I've got one right here. We'll put it over here. Who is that? That's not me, is it? Well, I guess it is. I even had hair. Amazing. I'd almost forgotten. Yep. Now, we take these for granted today, but say you're a caveman. You forget. You forget things. I read this article about some explorer, and he lived among these primitive people once, and they gave him a little tent to sleep in at night. And there was a little bag, about this big, I guess, and it was tied up to the top of the stake that held the tent up. And he wondered what that was for, so he took it down and he opened it and he looked in there, and it was full of mummified fingertips that somebody had died and they had cut their fingertips off so they could remember them. Pictures are better. Artwork is better. But when you live in a small tribe, it's not everybody's an artist. But can you imagine keeping grandpa or grandma's fingertips when that's the only way you could remember them? It's amazing. So let's see. Oh, well, one more thing is we really do have time machines today. I know I said you couldn't build a time machine to go into the past or the future, but we have a lot of time machines. bicycles, cars, buses, airplanes. Can you imagine if you had to walk to work? Wow. I mean, just how many people live close enough to work to actually walk? Not many. And you can do it, but with a nice modern car, you can go a lot farther away to get a better job. You can visit people. Back when all they had was horses. Can you imagine? Now, when I was young, I lived in Orlando, Florida, and my dad's family lived in Lansing, Michigan. It's about, as the crow flies, it's about 900 and some miles, but over the road, it's about 1,200 miles. And it usually took about 3 days. Then we'd have to buy meals. We'd have to buy a place to stay every night. And this was before interstate highways. And it was slow going. So we only went up there about every 10 years. But I remember when my mother died, my dad and I flew her body up to West Virginia, where she was born. And then we went on to Lansing. And when we were done there, we caught a plane from Lansing to Chicago, which is not very far. And then we took a plane from Chicago to Orlando. It took us 2 hours. 2 hours to go 1,000 miles. It's just unbelievable. So that is a time machine. The car was a time machine too, because there's no way we could have walked. And if we'd gone by horse, it had taken us 2 weeks just to get up there. Excuse me. And but we were back here in 2 hours from Chicago. Just amazing. So that's as close as we'll get to time travel. So, okay. Well, I think that's all I'm going to say about time travel. So, I have other videos coming, but this one is ending. So, thanks for listening. See you on the next one. Bye.